Welcome back to Mind Fable. I'm Mark,
And I'm Jessica.
and this is episode 3. We'll be together for hundreds and thousands of episodes together, maybe even millions.
Let's hope so.
Today we're diving deep into The Quiet Mind by John Coleman, chronicling his pursuit of inner peace.
It's quite a journey he takes us on.
It is from continents to philosophies, really digging into practices like Eastern meditation.
And exploring their potential for finding that elusive peace within.
Now, you wouldn't necessarily think a former CIA agent would be drawn to this.
Yeah, it's an interesting juxtaposition, isn't it?
It is.
But Coleman's experiences in the CIA dealing with such diverse cultures and personalities actually fueled this yearning for a way to silence the mental chatter we all experience.
It's like he was searching for an off switch for his mind.
In a way, yes, but not one that would diminish his purpose or creativity.
Right, more like finding a pool of quiet within himself.
Exactly, a place of stillness that doesn't compromise his ability to think and act effectively.
And his search takes him down some fascinating paths. Hypnosis, ESP Buddhism.
Encounters with philosophers, trips to the Himalayas, you name it.
It's a real whirlwind tour of different approaches to inner peace.
And throughout his journey, Coleman maintains this curious, almost skeptical mindset.
He's not blindly accepting these practices. He's testing, questioning, seeking to understand them deeply.
Which is refreshing to see, especially given his background.
So how does a CIA agent even end up exploring something like hypnosis, let alone ESP?
Well, it all begins in Thailand.
Thailand.
Yeah, he's invited to a meeting of a psychical research group.
Sounds spooky already.
Maybe a bit, but he probably went more out of curiosity than conviction.
Right, I can see that.
And ends up witnessing some pretty compelling things.
Like what, bending spoons with his mind?
Haha, not quite. But he does undergo hypnosis himself and recounts an experience of having a needle inserted through his arm while hypnotized without feeling any pain.
Okay, now that's impressive.
It's definitely not your average party trip.
Not at all. It sounds like that experience must have really shaken his understanding of what the mind is capable of.
It definitely made him question his assumptions.
I bet. Then there's another incident where a meditating naval officer seemingly controls Coleman's limbs while he's under hypnosis.
Yeah, that one's a real head-scratcher.
It is. So these experiences in Thailand are what launch him into the world of parapsychology and beyond.
They definitely play a key role. He goes on to visit the Duke University Parapsychology Laboratory,
Duke University? Wow.
where he learns about research on clairvoyance and telepathy, even experiments with ESP cards himself, with a friend who scores surprisingly high.
It's like he's encountering all these seemingly inexplicable phenomena one after another.
Yeah.
So what's next? Does he go full-on ghost hunter?
Surprisingly, no.
Really?
His path takes him toward Buddhism.
Buddhism, yeah, that's interesting. What draws him to Buddhism specifically?
Well, he delves into the story of Prince Gautama, who becomes Buddha, and his quest for enlightenment.
Right, the whole enlightenment thing.
Yeah, and Coleman seems particularly captivated by the Four Noble Truths of Buddhism, which offer a framework for understanding and overcoming suffering.
Four Noble Truths. Now, those are familiar. Could you remind me about those?
Sure thing. The first truth is that suffering exists.
Okay, I can definitely get behind that one.
The second is that suffering arises from attachment and craving. The third is that there is a way to end suffering. And the fourth is the Eightfold Path, which outlines the path to liberation.
The Eightfold Path, that's where the practical side comes in, right?
Exactly. It's not just about recognizing suffering. It's about taking concrete steps to overcome it.
So does this lead Coleman to try meditation himself?
You guessed it. He enrolls in a meditation course at Wat Mahathai Temple in Bangkok.
Beautiful setting, I imagine.
Oh, absolutely. A serene and tranquil environment. But
Yeah.
despite that, he faces some serious challenges.
Challenges like what, rogue monkeys stealing his meditation cushion?
Nothing quite that dramatic. He describes struggling with the lotus position, the constant influx of thoughts, and the strict instructions to be mindful of every sensation and action.
So not exactly the effortless meditation we often see portrayed.
More like battling restless legs and a mind that won't shut up.
Been there. But even though he struggles, he starts to see the power of turning inward, of quieting the mind to gain deeper insight.
It's a real turning point for him, the beginning of a new understanding.
It sounds like a classic case of no pain, no gain in the realm of spiritual growth.
It often is.
And I think that's where we'll pause for now. We've followed Coleman from the world of espionage to the heart of Buddhism.
And it's only the beginning?
Exactly. I'm eager to see where his journey takes him next.
Me too.
We'll be back soon with more of Coleman's fascinating story on Mind Fable.
See you then. Coleman's journey into meditation really takes a turn when he meets Yuba Kin, this Burmese government official and meditation master.
Yuba Kin, now that's a name that comes up a lot in discussions of mindfulness.
He becomes Coleman's teacher.
What makes Yuba Kin so important in Coleman's journey?
Well, what struck Coleman was Yuba Kin's ability to balance a demanding workload with a serious meditation practice.
So he was like a mindfulness role model.
Exactly, showing that it wasn't just for monks in caves.
You could weave mindfulness into a busy, successful life.
Exactly. And Yuba Kin introduces Coleman to Vipassana meditation.
Vipassana. I've heard that term, but could you break it down?
It's about gaining insight into the true nature of reality through your own experience.
Okay, so how is that different from other types of meditation?
A lot of meditation focuses on calming the mind, through concentration. But Vipassana goes further. It's about being really aware of your thoughts, sensations, feelings, observing them without judgment.
So you can see things as they really are.
Exactly, without the filters of our usual mental chatter.
I like that.
Yeah.
And Yuba Kin emphasizes that achieving a clear mind through samadhi or concentration is essential for practicing Vipassana.
Yeah, it's like you have to clear the mental clutter to make space for real insight.
Makes sense. But Coleman's journey doesn't stop there, does it?
Oh no, not at all. He's got that restless curiosity always wants to explore.
So where does he go next?
Well, he has this chance meeting on a plane with a philosopher.
On a plane?
Yeah.
That's random.
This guy challenges his views on truth, love, reality. All that.
And what does this philosopher say?
He emphasizes that words have limits.
Okay.
That direct experience is what matters.
Interesting. So wisdom can be found anywhere.
Right, even at 30,000 feet.
And who else does he meet on this intellectual adventure?
Well, he also has some deep conversations with J. Krishnamurti.
Now, that's a name that carries weight.
They dive into transcendental meditation duality, the problems with organized religion.
That must have been intense.
It was more like a meeting of minds than a teacher-student thing.
So Coleman was really trying to understand these concepts, not just learn about them.
Exactly. And then his quest for a quiet mind takes him to the Himalayas.
The Himalayas, wow.
He says it was transformative seeing the sunrise over Mount Everest.
I can only imagine.
Meeting Sherpa Tenzing Norgay, the first person to summit Everest.
What an experience.
And then he travels through Sikkim, encountering Tibetan Buddhism with prayer wheels and the idea of gaining merit through good deeds.
It sounds like a sensory overload of spirituality, incredible scenery.
He even explores tantric practices in Nepal.
Now, tantrism is a topic that people often misunderstand.
Yeah, it's often oversimplified.
So how did Coleman approach it?
With curiosity, but also caution.
Okay.
He's fascinated by the concepts, but he knows it can be misinterpreted.
Makes sense. He's always trying to see beyond the surface.
Right, to understand the real meaning behind the rituals and symbols.
So he's not looking for a quick fix or dogma. He's searching for genuine understanding, a lived experience of inner peace.
Exactly. And his search leads him to Benares, India.
Benares, the holy city of Hindus.
It's a city full of ancient rituals and beliefs.
So what happens there?
He goes deeper into Tantrism, learning from a Tibetan Lama about the concept of Shiva and Shakti, the dual aspects of God,
Represented by...
the yoni and lingam,
Those symbols are powerful.
and often misunderstood.
What did the Lama say about them?
The Lama said they're not meant to be taken literally.
So what do they represent?
They represent the masculine and feminine principles that are in all of us. The goal is not sexual. It's about recognizing and integrating these two sides of ourselves.
So it's about wholeness, a balance between these seemingly opposite forces.
Yes, exactly. It's understanding that they're not separate, they're complementary.
Fascinating. He also learns about the role of the guru and the use of mantras.
Yes, sacred sounds to focus the mind and connect with the divine.
It's amazing how Coleman keeps encountering these different paths to quieting the mind.
Each with its own methods and symbolism.
He's exploring this vast world of inner exploration,
Taking inspiration from different traditions, but always looking for that underlying truth.
that core experience of stillness and clarity.
Right. And his journey takes him to Japan, next to explore Zen Buddhism.
Zen Buddhism that's often shrouded in mystery.
He visits the Shikoku Zen temple.
What were his impressions of Zen with its simplicity, discipline? They're those koans.
He found it both intriguing and challenging.
How so?
He talks about a conversation with a monk, learning about the use of koans, those riddles that push you beyond logic.
To achieve enlightenment.
Exactly. He was also struck by the monk's daily routine.
All that meditation and discipline.
It's about bringing that awareness to every part of life.
Even the mundane stuff.
Yes, turning everything into an opportunity for spiritual growth.
It sounds demanding. Did he actually try to practice Zen?
He didn't go full monk, but he was impressed by the dedication and insights.
So he's taking what resonates with him from each tradition,
Finding what speaks to his own inner truth.
gathering tools for his mental toolkit.
Exactly. And then he investigates another popular approach, transcendental meditation.
The Maharishi Mahesh Yogi?
That's the one.
So what's Coleman's take on TM and the Maharishi?
He's interested but cautious.
I can see that.
He visits the Maharishi's academy in Rishikesh.
In India.
Yes, and he notices the luxurious amenities.
Which seems a little at odds with the whole ascetic lifestyle.
Right. He also notes the eventual downfall of the movement.
And the questions about its authenticity.
Yeah, it seems like he wasn't completely convinced.
Maybe he sensed a disconnect between the hype and the real essence of spiritual seeking.
Possibly. He was looking for real insight, not a trendy quick fix.
So he wasn't afraid to question authority.
Even in the world of spirituality, he was committed to finding the truth.
I respect that.
Yeah.
But his exploration doesn't end with Eastern traditions, does it?
No, he also looks into Western approaches.
Like what?
He attends a Quaker meeting.
With all the silent worship.
Yes, and he visits a Benedictine monastery.
Wow, so from bustling Bangkok to a quiet monastery.
He's covering a lot of ground,
testing the waters of different traditions.
trying to find what speaks to his own longing for peace.
And he even explores spiritualism.
He goes to a service with clairvoyant readings.
Really? What happened?
He gets a message from a deceased relative, a prediction that later comes true.
A message from beyond the grave. That's going deep.
He's a bit skeptical, but he doesn't dismiss it entirely.
So he's trying to find a balance between faith and skepticism.
Yes, a space for open-mindedness and critical thinking.
That's where the real wisdom is. And in the end, he goes back to Yuba Kin in Burma, back to his teacher.
It seems like a fitting end to his journey.
What happens during this final retreat?
This retreat, it's a whole other level of intense for Coleman.
Really? Even after all he's been through?
Yeah, he's facing some serious stuff, both physically and mentally.
Like what?
He's really confronting his inner turmoil, pushing through all the discomfort and distractions.
To reach a new level of awareness.
That's it. And there's this pivotal moment for him.
What happens?
He just lets go of the desire to escape suffering.
That's huge.
And that's when he achieves this deep peace and understanding.
So it's not about avoiding those tough emotions.
It's about accepting them, being present with them without all the judgment and resistance.
That's a core teaching of Buddhism, isn't it?
It is, but it takes on a whole new meaning when you actually experience it.
For sure. But what happens after this moment of enlightenment? Does Coleman become a hermit?
Not exactly. He realizes that keeping a quiet mind in everyday life,
It's a constant practice.
yeah, it's not a one-time thing. It's a process of coming back to that awareness.
So it's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. You're always refining your practice and finding new ways to stay still amidst the chaos.
And then Yuba Kin throws a curveball.
He does. He asks Coleman to teach meditation,
To teach
but using this distant control method.
distant control. What is that like? Mind control?
Not quite. Yubakin believed he could transmit his teachings through a mental connection.
Like telepathy?
Kind of. He wanted Coleman to tune into him at certain times.
To receive these transmissions?
Yes, and then share them with his own students.
Okay, that's a lot to take in. How did Coleman react to that?
He wasn't sure about it at first,
I can imagine. Distant control sounds pretty out there.
but he trusted Yubakin.
Nah.
He agreed to try. So he leads this meditation course, and it sparks all this new interest in his teachings.
Wow, so he becomes a teacher, carrying on Yuba Kin's legacy.
And bridging the gap between East and West.
Bringing these practices to a wider audience.
Exactly. And Coleman reflects on how Vipassana is becoming more popular in the West.
Thanks to Yuba Kin.
Yes, he made it accessible to more people.
What an incredible journey, from the CIA to Buddhism, Zen, and so much more.
It shows that the search for inner peace is something we all share.
And there are many paths to finding it.
What stood out to you most from Coleman's story?
I think the biggest thing is that finding a quiet mind is a journey.
It's about being aware, being present, and letting go of the things that cause us suffering.
And there's no right or wrong way to do it.
Exactly. We can learn from different traditions, try different things, and find what works for us.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into John Coleman's quest, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
What resonated with you from his story? What small step can you take to bring more stillness into your life?
It could be anything, trying meditation, spending time in nature, even just taking a few deep breaths.
The journey is yours to create.
Every step we take, no matter how small, it brings us closer to peace and fulfillment.
Thanks for joining us on Mind Fable. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep seeking that quiet within.